over at the junior high school, there was a special convocation that was visited by the mayor of Indianapolis at that time. Now, the designation was the work of many, many, many people. We had citizens, we had students from Ball State University, but the main driving force was Chuck Bennett and his junior high students. He would just give them assignments. They went out and interviewed the citizens in this area and wrote reports about those, and then those were culminated in the final application, which was then approved in 2006, as I said. The next year, 2007, Elizabeth, my wife, who was then president of the association, plus Chuck and myself, we went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because a national organization called Neighbors USA was meeting, and Elizabeth and Chuck did a PowerPoint presentation about how this designation was accomplished. And after the presentation, this association was voted the National 2007 Neighborhood of the Year for the national thing. Yes, that's great. As you were encouraged earlier, I encourage you to become a member of the association here, and you don't have to live in the area. For example, Elizabeth and I lived here for 64 years, but 5 years ago we moved to Robin Run, and we are still members. We are associate members, so you can be a member and not live in the area. Now, to meet the goal, one of the goals of this organization was the exchange of information, and that's what we're here about tonight. The first moderator of our forum was Mark Metz, and he did it for several years, and then later on I was asked to do it, and so I'm honored to be doing this again today. And our goal this evening is to introduce you to the candidates for the council and city county treasurer's job. You've been provided handouts that have the schedule, and if you look at that shortly, you'll see that in a little bit each candidate will be asked a question to which they have 2 minutes to answer, and then later on we'll have questions for the they can make comments. Then later on they'll have questions to which they'll have 2 minutes to answer. Then we'll take a brief break getting questions from the audience, and then they'll have 1 minute to answer those, and then finally everyone will have a 30-second period to wrap up the thing. And so, remember, if you have any questions, be sure and fill out one of those cards and hold it up in the air, and one of the individuals around will bring it up to us. So we hope that you learn much this evening, and thank you for coming. Just as an aside, the logo here, that logo was designed by my talented wife, Elizabeth. All right, each candidate now has 2 minutes to introduce themselves. We'll start here with Lori.
Okay. I'm going to turn this just a little bit to make sure you can hear me.
Can everybody hear?
No. Okay.
Talk loud.
Now can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Good evening. I'm Lori Wyse, and I'm the Democratic. Sure. I have to see if I can take the mic with me. No? All right. Good evening. I'm Lori Wyse. I am the Democratic candidate running for Speedway Town Council District 1. As a bit of history, I was raised in Southwest Indiana in a small farming community. My mother was a leader in Evansville, serving women through the YWCA. My father juggled teaching, coaching, and farming. I grew up with 5 siblings, and we're a very close-knit family. I attended IU, landed in Indianapolis, and have lived all over the city. When I was ready to buy my own home 20 years ago, as a single woman, I chose Speedway because it was safe and affordable. I met my husband Phil through the Indy 500 and mutual friends, of course, and we married and chose to stay in Speedway, and we bought our current home on 16th Street. I decided to run for council in the town of Speedway to offer residents a choice. I'm a social worker by training and career, which means I'm an excellent listener and a strong advocate. I have strong budgeting skills with experience keeping within budgets and figuring out how to get things done with less. Also, I've developed strengths in bringing people together in order to achieve goals and make things happen. Public safety, excellent schools, and redevelopment projects are top priorities for me here. I feel it's very important for citizens to have a voice in what happens in this community, and it's important that we seek public opinion and that there's transparency with town business that is conducted. We must cultivate strong relationships with the Indianapolis city government
and raised our two children, Nick and Nathan. Both kids are doctors, and I attributed that not to me, to my wife and the teachers of Speedway. They're just an awesome, caring group of individuals that really care about the kids. In 2005, I was asked to join the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, not even knowing where, at that point in time, we didn't have a redevelopment commission. We had a new council, but it was a change in the law that allowed us to start the commission. At that time, we had no money. We had direction from the council, and it was our job to go out and get it done. After 12 years of work, you can see what has happened to Main Street. We could shoot a rifle off down Main Street without hitting anybody in 2005, and now it's a wonderful place to grow and grow on. So thank you.
Thank you, Vince. All right, Alex.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Speedway. My name is Alex Weismiller. Thank you all for attending this evening, and thanks to those watching at home. Also, thank you to the OSANA for organizing this forum for the community. My name is Alex Weismiller, and I'm running for Speedway Town Council in District 3, proudly supported and endorsed by the Speedway Professional Firefighters Local 416. I have lived on the west side my entire life and have lived in Speedway since 2011. I've worked full-time for the Department of Radiology at IU Health since 2011, and when I'm not working my full-time job, I'm spending my free time volunteering in and around Speedway. For 5 years, I've been running the Speedway Wise Guy Facebook page, spreading the news of the town like cheese on a pizza. For the last 2 years, I've been serving on the Speedway Arts Advisory Council, now serving as president, working with our talented Speedway students and small business owners to put a mural up on Main Street. I also worked together with members of the community to create a memorial in Leonard Park. If elected, I would improve communication from the town council to all neighbors, improve lighting in our neighborhoods, improve sidewalks, and add more crosswalks in the busiest parts of our town. Many years ago, the Speedway Town Council took away public input sessions during the town council meetings, wrongfully silencing the voices in our community. Speedway deserves better. Ladies and gentlemen of Speedway, I will fight to give you your voices back during our town council meetings. Why? Because it is you who runs the town of Speedway, not the other way around. For the last 9 months, I've been knocking on doors in Speedway, listening to the concerns and ideas of our neighbors. Not because I have to, but because I want to. It is time that the town council puts the community first, never second. Thank you all.
All right, Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan Jensen. My wife, Rachel, is in the back. We moved to Speedway about 2.5 years ago. We moved to Indiana for my wife's job. She's a neuropsychologist down at Riley. We had never been to Indiana before except on I-94 between Chicago and Detroit. And Indiana was an unknown to us. We rented for a year up in Carmel, and then Rachel wanted to live closer to work. And so we started looking around, and we stumbled onto Speedway. And it's turned into this amazing gem. We wanted to start a family, and so schools were very important to us. And we were able to buy a house in Newby, and to watch how great Speedway schools are is just unbelievable to me for a town of our size. I unknowingly bought a house next to the fire chief, and he's turned out to be one of the greatest neighbors a guy could hope for. We had our daughter Ellie 7 months ago, and him and his wife have brought us dinner probably once every week for the last 7 months. And it's been just an unbelievable thing that Speedway has. It's such a unique, awesome thing. There's a culture of community here that I haven't experienced any other place that I've lived. And I've lived all over the states and have traveled all over. It's unbelievable to me. In 2008 or 9, whenever the recession was, my parents' home got foreclosed on. And it was a horrible, terrible thing. And it made me very financially aware of what happens with your money. And I've tried to focus on managing finance well. I own a small construction company. I've managed budgets from $100 to $1 million. I've had to fire people. I've had to hire people. I have experiences that will lend themselves to the management of this town. Thank you.
Eileen, I'm going to jump over to you, Eileen Fisher.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the sign wasn't right originally. When he went, it's correct now, but it wasn't right earlier. Just want to make sure it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. My name's Eileen Fisher, and I'm running for re-election for Speedway Town Council District 4. I moved to Speedway 25 years ago as a single mom, raising 3 boys. For our community, I was looking for a good school, affordable living, people that watched out for each other and helped each other. Being in the real estate industry for over 30 years, I've learned a lot of change, momentum, economics, redevelopment, and the strength of community. The convenience of living in Speedway is part of being in a big city. You can work just about anywhere and commute to work under 30 to 40 minutes, as long as there's no construction. And where they grew up. We had a vision 12 years ago for the taxpayers of this town, and we need to continue working on that vision. There is still a lot to do, and I want to be part of it.
All right, Colette.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Colette Nicolini. I'm a mom, wife, an educator of 7 years, a proud public servant, and your neighbor. It is encouraging to see so many residents here tonight, and many more who will watch this on our local broadcast. I want to thank you for attending to be a part of this forum. When we are all informed, our community does better. Our strongest asset in our community is our people, and Speedway deserves energized and enthusiastic leaders to serve our neighbors in town. For months now, I have spent every weekend and many weeknights knocking on doors and meeting hundreds of my neighbors. In that time, I have been impressed by the encouragement, the consideration, and the thoughtful conversations residents are having about the future of our community. It's all of you, my neighbors, and those conversations that have informed and shaped my platform and desire to bring new leadership to Speedway. Our residents want a voice. They want to feel that they are a part of the process and a part of the solution. Many neighbors have said they feel uninformed and left out when it comes to the choices being made by our leadership. Our residents want transparency. They want opportunities and time to share their concerns in our public meetings. They want scheduled public meetings to happen with regularity and time within those meetings to hear dialogue about the decisions that are being made for them. They want resident surveys that are fairly distributed to all of Speedway and resident input panels that truly represent the demographics of our town. Our residents want safety. They are worried about changing traffic patterns through our neighborhoods. They want more defined crosswalks, designated cycling lanes, reduced speed limits, and proactive solutions for the well-being of our neighbors. Our residents want leadership that supports and invests in our trails and parks. Our residents want leaders that listen and then act to amplify the collective vision of all of our neighbors. And I am here before you tonight because I believe it's time for Speedway to have a new choice and a new perspective on our town council.
All right, David.
Good evening. I'm David Lindsey. I'm running for re-election for Council District 5. I apologize for my voice. The allergies in the season have attacked me. I feel horrible tonight, but I'm here asking you for your support in my re-election. I've been a resident of Speedway for 41 years. Dan mentioned where he lives. That's a great street to grow up on. It's the same exact street that I grew up on. My mom worked for AFMD Bank at 16th and Lyndhurst. My dad's retired from Allison's. My wife and I lived out of town for a while, and we chose to come back to Speedway 1 for the schools. We have a daughter that graduated from the high school last year. I have a son that's a freshman. My daughter was the sports fanatic. My son is now the band, so I'm getting both sides of everything, which is fantastic. I am currently employed with the city. I am a police officer currently assigned to the Grand Jury Division of the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, focusing on white-collar and financial crimes. I think based on the work that I do, I have to dot I's and cross T's, which is what I do when I'm here on the council. I bring up the important questions. I question things. For those of you that know me, I'm not shy about asking the questions that need to be asked, and I will continue to do that for the residents of Speedway. And Bev, you can stop the timer because I'm done.
All right, Jason?
I'm Jason Seaver, and I'm running for town council. I'm not originally from Speedway, but I have long considered Speedway my home before I purchased a home here 15 years ago. I am a transplant. I grew up in southeastern Indiana and went to Marion College when it was Marion College for undergrad, and loved the West Side, loved Speedway. My first home actually was over on Girard in Old Speedway. But unfortunately, we had to move because my wife and I then wife rather, had twins. So 2-bedroom bungalow with 3 kids is not going to work. So we were fortunate enough to move to Meadowwood, and it's been a great experience. We did have an incident where there was a burglary into our home in the middle of the night. This was 6 years ago when the break-ins were happening, and our home was one of them. But we chose to stay and continue to be a part of this community and help it grow and get better. And I think that I've been able to help do that with participating in the youth programs in Speedway with basketball and soccer, especially. But beyond that, I'm a 20-year educator in Decatur Township Schools, finishing my PhD currently in education leadership. So I feel that my desire to serve the community and the greater good makes me an ideal candidate. I have background in administrative work, as well as just the goal and the desire to be transparent and be a leader for the community. And I want to commend everybody up here for taking the time and putting themselves out to represent or be here to have the conversation, because I think this election is going to be the one that changes the community forever into the future.
All right, Michelle?
Good evening, my name is Michelle Leidy. I'm a lifelong resident of Speedway. My grandparents moved here in 1934 because my grandpa thought it would be really cool to live next to the Indy 500. I still live in that home, which is now doubled in size, with my husband, who is a veteran of the United States Navy, and my daughter Lindsey, who is a senior at Speedway High School. She's top 20 of her class, so I think we're just going to keep her. I have a long history of service to this community I'm very proud of in a variety of different venues. But most recently, for 7 years, I worked in an administrative role in the town manager's office. And during that time, it really gave me a new perspective for the amazing men and women that actually run this town day in and day out, all the employees of this town, how they can pull it all together, and they just do great things for us. And more importantly, I think the work that I appreciated the most was when I got to work with the residents. Oftentimes, phone calls would be sent to me with people didn't know what to do with, and it would be folks with a problem or a concern. There was a lady that had a leak in her roof and she wasn't sure how to fix it. I was able to put her in touch with a resource for folks going through some financial trouble, and she was able to get a new roof. So it's bringing those kind of resources to the clerk treasurer's office. Also, you're going to hear transparency a lot. For me, transparency means printing off copies of those claims that are being presented to town council. I think it's important that you all know what claims are being paid and how much things cost. It's your money, you should know. And I also think we need to improve customer service. I think being closed at lunchtime is not a great service to the residents and business owners of town. You want to conduct business on your lunch, I think town hall should be open during that time to service you. And those are just a couple of the things that I have in mind, and I'm open to talk further at any time. Thank you.
All right, Monty?
I'm last, okay. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's good, nice to see all of you, and it's kind of fun to be out here and listen to what we're have to say. 12 years ago, my wife Betsy and I moved to Speedway. I'm sorry.
Can you get the microphone closer?
Try my best. My wife Betsy and I moved here 12 years ago. We were getting close to our grandkids and our 3 daughters. I never anticipated that I was going to work for for Speedway. It came open all of a sudden, and people asked me to do it. They knew my background and said, would you do it? And I said no 10 times. And then I got up one morning and I said, oh, what the heck, let's do it. And so I've been there since. It'll be 6 years now. We've, one thing I found out real quick is there's a lot of things that go on in the town hall and clerk treasurer's office. I could put those on everybody's seat. You'll see that. It gives you the activity, some of the activity we do. A lot of people don't understand that. Brock came over one time and we were talking and I said, did you get your dog tag? He said, oh, I didn't know I had to. So we got him for that one. But on the other side, you'll see my resume of the past 25 years of what I've done. And it fit right into what I've done in the past to be a clerk treasurer for this town. We've made a number of changes to make it better. Better for not only the employees, but also for the citizens. And I think it's worked extremely well. I'm pleased to be here and ask for your votes for about a month, and I'd like to continue on. Thank you very much again for coming out, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. And now we'll start on the session where we have pre-planned questions for the candidates, and they, again, have 2 minutes to respond. And I'm going to start out with Colette. Colette, how would you work with the current elected members of the council in preparation for your term?
I think that's a great question. At the end of the day, me running for town council is about the people. And I believe that having open communication, not just with our residents, but also with the current leadership and allowing them to, if they are willing, help me to understand some of the processes that I don't have a better grasp on, would help with that transition. I do believe that everybody up here has the town in their heart, and I think that overall, everybody wants to do the right thing for Speedway. And so I believe that if we keep the lines of communication open and keep the people and our town in our forefront and in our foresight, we will have a smooth transition if I am elected.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Eileen, what do you believe is the most important function of the council president?
Wow. Well, the council president definitely keeps the other councilors aware of what's actually going on and keep them informed. We are as the council president, you're in front of more of the department heads, the town manager, working closely with them on the day-to-day issues of what might come about. And as it's hard sometimes to gather 5 people and talk about it at once, you have to make those individual phone calls and discussions and going back and forth. And sometimes it's best, I'd rather sit down and talk to somebody versus going through an email or a text. I think sometimes you can be a little bit more clear. You pick up different tones, so you pick up different maybe perspectives of what they're coming from on an issue that might be something that we have to take care of in right away.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Back to Lori. How would you approach becoming familiar with the current roles and responsibilities of a town council member?
Let me move this so you can hear me. I look forward to that, to doing that. I certainly hope that there would be open communication amongst everybody. Again, I think we can, work amongst all of us for the best of Speedway in transitions if I'm elected. I do think becoming familiar with all the committees, meeting with some of the committee chairs, doing those kind of things will help familiarize me with different roles and talking, again, with the current employees and the town manager, of course, and all the town employees to get a good grasp on how things run and how council functions.
All right, thank you. Gary, with so much on the plate of the town council and the town employees, what is one item that you would like to see our town address that hasn't been addressed
Yeah, that's a really good question. What would I address that hasn't been addressed at this point in time? It would absolutely be senior housing and other forms of housing. The whole point of redevelopment 20 years ago, when myself and a few other people rallied others to go forward with this, was the idea that, not just the idea, that the realization that if we got corporate investment, if we spent our own monies as a town and did the things that we've done, that we would then have people investing in homes. And that's happened. And so now one of the challenges we have still is that we need senior housing. We need transitional housing. When I say senior, I'm not just talking about assisted living or someone that's elderly that takes that type of housing, but someone who, like myself, one of these days I don't want to take care of my property. I'd rather live in a condo, or I'd rather live in a townhome, or something that has less care that I would have to give it. It would also free up my schedule to be able to serve more in the town or at church or other places where I serve. So that's, I think, the biggest thing. While I still have about a minute left, because we were told we could have 2 minutes to answer these questions, I'd like to point out that this town council is very in touch with the community. Myself personally, I'd bring your attention to something that was passed out by Kelly Buck, who's our Director of Communications in the town. There's a number of things that she's added in the last 5 or 6 months since being employed with the town, and it's why we hired her, and she's doing a great job in that regard. What I would also add is that the town is absolutely first for me, and I know it is the same way for the other 5 people that I serve with. To say that it's second offends me. Absolutely offends me. The amount of time that myself and the others put in is extraordinary. We're talking about 15 to 25 hours a week of our own personal time that we're willing to do that. In the last 12 years, I've calculated it. I've met 19,000 times. 19,000 times I've met or had emails and direct communication with residents of this town.
Thank you, Gary. As a personal note, if what you had said was true, we would be living in Speedway now.
Correct.
All right.
As would my mother.
Jason, would you, it says, are there specific operations within the town that you are looking at that might be improved?
There's nothing off the top of my head that I can think of. I think that the town of Speedway does a really good job of keeping the roads up and the parks and the safety, the fire. We have a lot of great people that work here, some great departments, but there's always ways to get better. And I think as town councilman, one of the things that I would do is come in and interview and talk to some of those folks that make those decisions and see how we can improve and make things more efficient and run smoother and be more cost-effective for our citizens.
All right. Thank you. David, what key areas have you personally been able to support for the overall success and function of the town?
I think important to me is public safety. I've asked but not received. I would love to see more police officers to patrol the town. When you have a main street that had nothing in it about 7 to 8 years ago, and now it's bustling, busy, which is what we want. We want people to visit Main Street, but I think part of that, you want the people that go to Main Street or visit other places in town to feel safe. I feel that our police chief and our fire chief do an excellent job with the resources that they have. However, I believe that they could do that if they are given more, then that would just increase the level of safety that residents feel here within the town, for those that live here and also those that visit as well.
All right, thank you. Michelle, what is your understanding of the role of the clerk treasurer, and how do you intend to provide these services?
Well, very simply, the clerk treasurer is held responsible for the money coming in, the money coming out of the town, as far as everything from tax dollars, making sure that those are spent with council approval, any bonds, monitoring those, staff payroll is hugely important, and that's one area that I would like to look at also down the road. Water billing, another area that I like to look at. Permits, licensing, all of that is handled also, and I think could use some modernization in those areas as well.
All right, thank you. Monty, What has been the most challenging part of being clerk treasurer, and what improvements have you made to the town's overall function?
Well, when I came in November 1st of 2013, there were a lot of problems, and that's too bad. But the police officers weren't allowed to come over to the town hall. Police officers weren't allowed to come over to town hall because of the friction between the two areas. Same thing with the firefighters, with the same situation, they had to come with their supervisors. Those things don't work, we need to work together, and that was the first thing that had to be taken care of. And we've done that very, very well. Two, my staff, they couldn't be better, they're great. They're educated well, they do a great job, and they worked hard for us to clean up everything that needed to be taken care of. We've changed payroll because it wasn't being handled right. One of them was in the paper not long ago. When I first got there, the guy was doing payroll. He stole $9 million, and he's been prosecuted. So we got rid of that very quickly. So it was a process that took a long time, and 3 or 4 years where the first ones were rough, but it was fun, and it was a lot of hours I had to take care of. As far as customer service, yes, we always wanted that good, and I'm sorry, I think we have great customer public. 2 or 3% may not like it, but 97% do. So to me, I think that's a winner. Anybody that walks in there and sees Sarah on her utilities, on her utility bills, on their bills, she's got a smile constantly, all of them do, and we take care of the customers the best we possibly can. Sometimes we can't. We got a call the other day for somebody and they want to know if we can help them change their name. We can't do that. So there's a lot of things we get messages on or phone calls on, and we can't do it. But we've not been afraid to make changes. Our financial software was changed about 3 years ago, much, much better than what it was before. And we actually, in taking the payments from the people, we lowered down on a debit card of what they had to pay. Pay it for the charge to use a debit card to pay their utility. So we've done a lot of work. I think it's all kind of come together, and that's the most important part in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Vince, what plans do you have for engaging a more diverse group of residents that better represent our community as a whole?
Well, right now, as we speak, there are several boards and commissions that are vacant in the town. And the town desperately needs the input of the residents. And no better way than to serve on a board or commission to find out what's going on within the town of Speedway. You get into the nuts and bolts and you actually have to make decisions. I think it's an excellent way in which citizens of the town of Speedway can get to understand what is going on behind the scenes. When you have to basically listen to comments and usually you'll get information from the experts in that field and understand what the actual problem is or whatever you're faced with, and take and apply that and make a decision so that you can correct it and go on from there. But it's sad that there is so many boards and commissions that are unfilled, and I think that, it shows me the number of people here, but you have to make a commitment. You've got to, step up and say that, I'm going to go out and help the town and be involved with those commissions to make it work.
Okay, thank you. Jenny, how would you engage a more diverse group of Speedway students in our community?
For me, that's actually really easy. I'm a substitute teacher for Speedway schools. I have taught.
A little louder.
Sorry. I said for me that'd be easy. I'm a substitute teacher for Speedway schools. So I am involved in every school, in every elementary, the junior high, and the high school. I've been everything from a gym teacher at the junior high to the band director of the high school. Just for the record, doing worksheets all day is boring for the sub as well. But I'm also involved in Speedway youth soccer, and my husband's actually a coach. I said I'm a professional snack bringer. But my kids, the youth is where I'm at. That's my niche. I know how to talk to the kids because I'm still a mom. I'm a mom of small kids and big kids. I have more kids when I pick up my children from school that shout in my car, "Hey mom, hi mom." I did not birth all those children, but I would bring them and feed them and comfort them. I'm the place to go for Halloween. And if you come to my house at Halloween and you are a high school student, I am putting a costume on you if you're going door to door. Because you're still a kid, you're allowed to go, but you're going to abide by the rules. But I love that Speedway schools are so diverse. The Nigerian kids, the Thai kids, the Burmese kids. My kids' best friends are Mehitabel and Tuesday and Henya and Pashu. These are my kids' friends. We live in a small town in central Indiana, and we get to live amongst people from the lightest skin tone to the darkest skin tone, and nobody cares. I have actually been the EEL, which is like English as the second language, substitute before. I've sat there and I've listened to these kindergarten kids listen and say, mailman, because they're learning the English language. They are braver than I have ever had to be in my lifetime. At 5 years old, pop me in a school in Thailand and I would fail.
Thank you, Jenny. And now, Dan, how would you improve the communication and transparency from the from the town council?
Good question. From my perspective, any question I've wanted answered, I'm the new kid on the block. As I've gone through the process of, what post office do I go to? Everything was new to us. Any question I wanted answered from the town of Speedway, I got answered in one phone call. I have some friends on Christopher Lane who also own a property over in District 5 where the floodplain was, and they asked me when I decided to run, hey, what's going on with the flood insurance over there? And I said, I don't know, but I'll ask. I'll see what I can find out. One phone call, and I had the information that it was with FEMA's, in FEMA's hands, and I was then able to pass it on to them. And I know that's frustrating. I know that's, that's an extra $1,000 to $1,200 those people are paying in flood insurance every year. That of course that's frustrating. But it's being taken care of, and it's in some sense it's out of Speedway's hands. And so my contact information is in the newspaper. It's in this. One of the things that I excel at are relationships. I'm self-employed. Really, what I'm selling a service, but I'm really selling myself. I'm selling a relationship. And so I would try to make myself as relationally available as people needed. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything you ask for, you're going to get. You get a car, you get a car. It's not the Oprah show, But I will always listen. Your voice will always be heard. And I will not guarantee an outcome. I have friends in other states who have the same house that I do, who pay 10 and 15 times what we pay for property taxes. And again, Speedway is just a special, unique thing that I want to be a part of this. I want to be the fact that we're all here.
Thank you, Dan. And now, Alex, how would you design and implement a more efficient communication plan from the town council to Speedway residents?
Well, so that process started 9 months ago. You get out there and you knock on doors, and you reach out to residents. There are a lot of folks out there who've lived here for 40, 50 plus years, and they're not on the internet. They're not on Facebook. They're not on Twitter. They don't do email. They rely heavily on pieces of paper that are sent to them. Luckily, we have a lot of great newspapers here in the neighborhood that give information, but it shouldn't just be on those newspapers. I think the town council really needs to get out there and connect with all of our neighbors, knock on doors, take the time to sit down and listen to them and hear their concerns. And only by listening to those people, our neighbors, our residents, is when we can start building that back up.
Okay, thank you. And now it's time for our break, and so I request that you all stand in place. In other words, don't wander off, and we'll get some questions organized. 5-minute break.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
We'll come back to our session again. I hope everybody had a good time getting together. I have to apologize, particularly to the people behind me. I just hope they didn't get blinded by reflection off this bald spot back here. But we'll continue. We'll start over here again with questions. These were for 1 minute answers. And, this is for Lori. It says, what commissions and/or boards have you served on in the town?
I have not served on one of the official town boards or committees here. So I am part of Old Speedway Neighborhood Association, the Bicycle Club, and do a lot of other things around the town of Speedway.
Thank you. All right, Gary Rakes, if you are not reelected, will you participate in the transition to new leadership?
Absolutely. I would, I expect to be reelected. I'm certainly working towards that. You expect to achieve the goals you have, but I would absolutely help in the transition. And bigger than that, I would, when I am reelected, I would also encourage anyone who's not reelected to still be involved. If I was not reelected, I would still be involved. I'm a Lion, so I'm involved there. I'm in the Fuller Center for Housing. One of the questions that someone asked me during our break, or actually they emailed me earlier in the day, was what about youth mentoring? And I serve on the Fuller Center. I serve on the Sagamore Leadership Initiative, and I'm a board member of that. It's outside the town of Speedway currently, but it's a program that teaches leadership to youth. And I think that's something that I would be involved in regardless whether I'm elected or not elected.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Jenny, how can the town and school work together to reduce the number of transient students in our schools? How can we work to help keep people in Speedway?
I think we're already well on our way of working on that. Coming from a council perspective, I think making it safer for them to actually get to school. Most people do know, but we don't have buses. I think the one thing that kind of, if it pulls anybody out of our schools, would be maybe the potential safety. Other than that, I don't know of a lot of people who move out of Speedway due to anything that has to do with the schools. I think if people do leave, it's for job, it's for other reasons. I have not had one person that I know of say anything about the schools being negative. During the vote last time, I did go door to door for the name is escaping me. The referendum. And there was a huge turnout on that. And I think it's because we do have a lot of push to keep our schools the best that they are. I mean, and not many other public schools have 17 kids.
Thank you, Jenny. Vince, do you believe that it's wise to have all 5 seats for the election up on the same ballot? And then the second part of that, would you be willing to serve a lesser term to offset the elections?
No, I think that it's wise that we do have all 5 seats up. This town has a very diverse economic, social background, that there's a lot of information coming into the council that they have to decide on. And, the council is, basically run by residents. And you've got I've got a full-time job, everybody on the council has a full-time job. You got to be able to split that, that time and get as much information for as many people. And that way you've got 5 individuals putting that information together and forming an opinion so that we can make correct decisions in a timely manner.
Thank you. Let's see. This is for Eileen. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole.
Colette.
Yeah, Colette, yes.
It's okay, I get it all the time.
Colette. What experience do you have in the way of budgeting and like the town budget and what's involved there?
Well, that's a great question. I'm sure many of you already know this, but my husband Ian was the town manager for 2 years And I think I learned a lot through just listening and observing. I'm also a teacher, and one thing that I pride myself on as a teacher is learning, being a lifelong learner. And so while I might not have the most extensive experience with budgeting for the town, I am committed to learning those things, and I think I would pick them up very easily. And I believe that given the opportunity that I would adhere to that and make sure that it is transparent and that we are spending the investment of our taxpayers wisely. Thank you.
Okay. Eileen, this concerns our bike trails. It says, we are walking/biking non-busing community served by Crawfordsville and Lyndhurst. With these streets under Indy control, how can we improve the connectivity, walkability, and bikeability of our town?
I think that with the work that Bev Catahenry has done for us and the trails, they've already done a lot of that. They've worked hard to get grants to connect our trails to downtown and out to Hendricks County. But we do have to work closely with Indianapolis. And that is probably the tougher picture of what we have to work from here in the small town, is because they have controls over some of our main streets, such as Crawfordsville Road, High School Road. We have to go to them. We have to, the work that was recently done on Crawfordsville Road was all from the city of Indianapolis. And so, but we do need to work with them closely and try to figure that out. I think that there's enough studies out there that we can take to them to get those issues resolved.
All right. Thank you. Jason, when you are selling Speedway to your friends, what are you telling them?
Oh, what do I tell them? I tell them that we have some amazing restaurants on Main Street, that we have awesome parks, that we're close to everything, that the schools are great, that my kids love it here. They love their friends. They love playing soccer. They love they love everything about Speedway. And for me, that's the biggest selling point. If you come to my house and you see my kids running around and playing and laughing with their friends, see them at the park, at the concerts, and playing soccer on a Saturday, you'll see why we stayed in Speedway and how I sell it, by showing my friends, these are my kids, this is our life. And so beyond just saying, let's go here and eat, let's go there, they get to see the experience of my children as they live their lives in Speedway.
All right, thank you. David, it says, we have seen a lack of oversight from current leadership that has resulted in negative press for our town. How can we trust anything would change under their continued leadership?
I think I disagree with that. That negative press is because Monty in his office has done checks and balances and found the errors that have been made. 2 people have been convicted of felonies committed against our town because of the checks and balances of his office and the good work that he's done. Those are 2 people, but there's 100 other employees of this town that go out every day to make the town the fantastic place that it is. And as I've said in my opening statement, I'm one that asks the questions. I'm not for sure if you can still see it, but the video or the council meeting that I questioned our former clerk treasurer, it was me that went public with the wrongs that she was doing in that office at that time. And I asked those questions. And if people are doing things wrong, there's a level of trust that you put in people. And when those people break that trust.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I got messed up on the cards, I'm sorry.
Do you have more time?
No, time was right, my cards were wrong.
Okay. Yes. Michelle, it says, do you plan to outsource the treasurer's duties of the clerk treasurer position? And if you do you expect taxes will increase to cover the expense of outsourcing?
That is a crazy, crazy rumor. I've heard that. No, I have no plan. I need those girls at Town Hall. They do a fantastic job, and I definitely need them to help take our office to the next level. And as far as tax dollars, that's not something that the clerk treasurer can do, is to raise taxes. So I just got to pay the bills. So.
Okay. Thank you. Monty, what vision do you have for the town in the next 4 years, and what accomplishments do you want to see for the residents by that time?
Well, we'll work the same way we've done over the past 6 years. We've made sure that we bring in as much revenue as possible. As everybody knows, Speedway is not, we don't have an area where we can put up 500 new homes, et cetera. So we have to make sure our spending is low, and it needs to be that way. It needs to be, like David said, we've got to look at it every day and at that and make sure we're taking care of our money the way we should. We can't let that money get away. Plus, we got to bring in all the revenue that we can. Mainly, you're talking, there's ordinances out there that have been in place for years and years, and then we have to bring more money into what we can based on those ordinances. One that we weren't applying was sent in 1969, and we started, and what we do for the citizens, we treat them all the same. No one gets special treatment. Whatever this ordinance says, whatever the rules are, we do it that right way. And we got to continue to do that to make sure we're solvent in our finances.
Okay, thank you. And now we will do the summing up step, which now you have.
Did everybody get questions?
Beg pardon?
Did everybody get questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I got it here someplace. Here? No. Here it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Alex, what experience do you have in managing a budget for a town the size of Speedway?
Well, so I work at IU Radiology, and I've been there since 2011, and a lot of that has to do with the billing end. So what I do is I make sure that MRIs, mammograms, x-rays, that they're all read within a 24-hour turnaround time for our patients and for our physicians outside of Indianapolis. But I also make sure that they are billed correctly. So that is looking at spreadsheets and looking at the small differences in those, just to make sure that they do get billed correctly, so that way people aren't coming back and have a huge issue on their hands. I know that there's a lot more to learn, but I look forward to sitting with our leaders right now and learning more about that, because that's the only way you can get things done, is by working as a team.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Now, Dan, what experience do you have in negotiating contracts and agreements with businesses and government entities?
Yeah. Personally, I do not have any. My dad's he is a retired UAW contract negotiator. I grew up all UAW auto. My uncle was on the International House for the UAW. I grew up in a negotiating family. On a personal level with my business, I write bids, things change, things come up. I have to change things on the fly. I have to communicate that with homeowners. I don't have experience with with the municipality. I'm hoping to get that. I'm hoping to stand on the shoulders of those around me, those who've gone before me. I'm a self-learner, so that would be what I would do.
All right, thank you. Now, I think we'll start with the 30-second summation, and we'll start with you, Lori.
Lori, okay, thank you.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
She's got adjusted.
I know.
30 seconds?
Yep.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Now go.
Okay. So I guess, first of all, I wanted to say real quick about the previous question I was asked, that even though I haven't served on committees here locally, I have been on boards and been involved in other organizations throughout Indianapolis. And again, regardless of the outcome of this election, I'm happy to be involved. I wasn't aware there were openings, so it's good to know that. I am hopeful that the residents of the town of Speedway are eager for a fresh face and a new voice on the town council. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and I hope you'll consider supporting me. Please take yourself and a friend to the polls on November 5th.
Thank you. All right. Gary?
Yes, thank you. 30 seconds is not a long time to say what you'd like to say at the end, but when I look across the room, probably half the room, I know your name, or I know your nickname, like the shortbread gang that's back behind Miss Allen, my first grade teacher, and my mother that's sitting back there, or just a number of folks. For me, serving in this town is serving the people. I have relationships with thousands of people in this town. And if I don't recall their name on the spot, I'll recall it very quickly.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to serve.
All right, Jenny?
I just wanted to thank all of you guys for coming out and giving us an opportunity to get introduce ourselves, but also show you that you guys have choices. My husband and I, like I said, we've lived here for years. He owns his own small business, and he's currently at the soccer fields right now. I see a big change coming, and with that change comes new leadership.
Vince?
I just want to say that one of our major stakeholders in this town, Allison's, is investing millions of dollars into a development on 10th Street. When you have relationships with major stakeholders as Allison's, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the environment around you. Last week we had a BZA hearing that I was the only resident that spoke at that hearing in favor of the variance that they requested. But get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Like I said, for 9 months, I've been spending my free time knocking on doors in Speedway. When one neighbor told me that this was the first time in 40 years someone had knocked on their door to ask about their community, I was shocked. When I was told many more times by longtime residents, it made me work harder. All year long, half the folks up here have been expecting your vote. On November 5th, I hope you vote for the ones who've been working for your vote. My number is 317-771-5164. Better transparency communication starts now. On November 5th, I hope to receive your vote. Thank you very much.
Dan?
I want to thank you all for having us here. This is a sign of what Speedway is and what makes it so great. The spirit of community I talked about earlier. I want to work alongside 100 Alexes, you know? Like his level of excitement and enthusiasm for the city. This is amazing. This is a beautiful thing that we have here. I want to be a part of continued growth. What's happened on Main Street, what's happened on the west side, our property values are going through the roof. This is an awesome town. I love our schools. I love our public safety.
Thank you, Dan. Eileen?
First, I'd like to thank for the OSNA for hosting this event. This is a great event. Thank you for everyone for coming out. The current town council and the department heads here have really worked hard to make the community where it is today. And I thank you for all of those who have been involved on the schools and boards and the different serving of our town, because that's how you get involved and that's how you get out there to know people. I care about our community and neighbors, and I ask for your vote on November the 5th.
Colette?
Speedway, you finally have a choice, and it's time for leadership that listens. My campaign has knocked over 670 doors this campaign season, and I am willing to listen to all stakeholders to bring all of our collective voices to the table and to amplify the vision of everyone in Speedway. Thank you for your consideration, and please vote for me on November 5th.
David?
Thank you all for attending tonight. Sorry for the voice. I'm not expecting a vote. I feel like what the council's done the past 8 years that I've served is we've shown progress. We have a Main Street that is doing wonderful things. We have 2500 Crawfordsville and High School Road is being developed. Continue the progress. I ask for your support coming up, and please vote. Thank you.
Jason?
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the OSNA. Thank you to all of my fellow candidates up here. I commend you all for stepping out and doing this. I think that tonight is I think it's the start of something new and wonderful here in Speedway with discussion and discourse and transparency, and I'm looking forward to a great campaign season, and I hope that you all come out and vote. Thank you.
Michelle with the smile.
Thank you. There are not a lot of requirements to be clerk treasurer in the town of Speedway. You basically have to live in the district, so I have that going for me. But I look forward, with your help, to attending all State Board of Accounts training that they provide for new incoming clerk treasurers. I look forward to learning everything I can and being the best steward of your tax dollars. Thank you for your consideration.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I really enjoyed it, actually. I didn't think I would when I came out, but yeah, I did. But I just want to think one thing. I think if you're going to make a vote, look at the criteria of what the business is. The clerk treasurer job is not an easy job at all. I can tell you it's much more difficult than I ever thought when I got into it. Look at the credentials, their background, their education, et cetera, because it's not going to be easy no matter who it is, but the experience makes the world. So thank you all, and go vote. Thank you.
As
He's going to make closing comments. Yes, closing comments. Do you?
Well, I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and I want to be sure to have you. Oh, yes. I thank you all for coming tonight, and be sure and go out and vote November 5, and remember, you vote for 5 positions plus the clerk treasurer. Thank you.
I would like to show my appreciation for Ed for being our moderator. Thank you very much. You did a wonderful job. I am very impressed and very pleased with all of our residents coming out to talk to all of our candidates. We will have 15 minutes to mix and mingle, but we do need to leave at 9. So be prepared for that. If you do have a badge for Old Speedway City Neighborhood Association, if you'll please return that as well. And if our candidates cannot stay until 9 and they have to leave early, please let them be appreciative of their time and let them go if they need to go. Thank you very much, everyone.